It's Monday, May 18th. In the headlines, public transport operators restive amid fuel price increase. Capri report questions child investment outcomes. In business news, Statin says food prices dropped in April. Regionally, Antigua and Barbuda launches major early warning initiative. And in sports, Montego Bay United edge Cavalier 1-0 in Jamaica Premier League semi-final first leg. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The Transport Ministry says it has called a meeting with public transport operators amid growing concerns over demands for a fare increase. In a statement issued Sunday, the ministry said the operators' calls for higher fares have intensified following rising global fuel prices linked to geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. Representatives from the Transport Authority and transport operator groups are expected to attend the meeting, which will be addressed by Finance and Public Service Minister Favour Williams. Transport Minister Darrell Vaz says the government is aware of the financial strain facing both commuters and transport operators. He notes that operators have been awaiting a fare increase for some time and are now also dealing with higher fuel costs. Minister Vaz says the government is seeking a balanced solution that addresses operators' concerns while minimizing negative impacts on the wider economy and the cost of living for Jamaicans. Meanwhile, the Jamaica Constabulary Force says it has received intelligence that public passenger vehicle operators are planning to strike on Monday amid demands for an increase in fares. According to an internal memorandum from the Office of the Deputy Commissioner of Police for Strategic Operations, authorities anticipate attempts to block roads and disrupt traffic flow during the protest action. The memo warns that commuters traveling to work, school, and other businesses could be stranded at bus stops and other gathering points, making them vulnerable. The JCF also notes concerns that PPV operators who choose to continue operating during the strike could face physical attacks or damage to their vehicles. Branch, area, and divisional commanders have been instructed to put appropriate security deployments in place. Our news team understands that the restive operators are in a holding pattern awaiting emergency talks with the government. A new report examining child-related spending in Jamaica is raising concerns that despite billions being invested annually, the country is still not achieving strong outcomes for children. Researchers say weak accountability, poor implementation, and underinvestment in early childhood development are limiting the impact of public spending. Our reporter Danila Rodney has more.
A new study by the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI, examining nearly a decade of government spending says Jamaica is investing heavily in children, particularly in education, but the results are falling short. CAPRI's Director of Research, Dr. Diana Thorburn, notes that while Jamaica spends at levels similar to wealthier countries, learning outcomes and productivity remain weak.
We are allocating a share of our national income to education at the level of rich countries. We spend like a rich country. And yet, a child entering school today in Jamaica can expect 11 and a half years of schooling, but will learn only the equivalent of 7 of them. Jamaica's score on the World Bank's Human Capital Index, which measures the productive potential a child born today will reach by age 18, is 0.53, meaning a Jamaican child is on track to realize just over half their potential. We spend like a rich country, but we're not getting the outcomes of one.
The report says Jamaica is investing too late in children's development with insufficient focus on the first 3 years of life.
The rate of return on investing in this window is higher than at any later stage. The negative experiences of toxic stress, poor nutrition, inadequate stimulation can reduce adult earnings by up to 25%. What happens in the first 3 years leaves a mark that no subsequent investment can fully erase. Not a good primary school or a great high school, not a scholarship, not a well-resourced education system. The first 1,000 days are largely outside the education budget. They belong in health, in housing, in nutrition, in child protection, in social protection, which are precisely the categories where Jamaica's spending is the thinnest, the least protected, and the most opaque. Education spending cannot deliver its potential returns where the foundations were not built.
Dr. Thorburn also found that a growing share of public spending is being absorbed by salaries rather than direct services and operational support.
In education, compensation of employees absorbed roughly 83% of the budget in 2017-2018, and by 2024-2025, that had increased to 86%. The same pattern holds in child protection, food and nutrition, and recreation, culture, and sport. In 2022, the government implemented a major public sector restructuring. It was a rational response to long-standing wage compression. Teachers, social workers, public sector workers, broadly speaking, should be paid more. But it was not accompanied by a corresponding increase in operational budgets. So the wage bill went up, but to date, and maybe it's too soon to say, improved services have not followed.
She is now calling for stronger accountability and a better tracking of how child-related spending translates into outcomes.
Across every category we examined, we found no performance frameworks linking expenditure to outcomes and no disaggregated reporting connecting spending to what children actually received. So the estimates tell us what government intends to spend, what it plans to spend, what it spent the previous year, but it does not tell us what was delivered, to whom, or with what result. No requirement to report on outcomes means there is no onus to achieve them. The absence of data is not just a data gap, and this is a finding of the report. It is an accountability gap.
The report recommends increased investment in early childhood development, stronger child protection systems, and improved oversight of child-related spending. Reporting for the news on PBCJ, I am Denita Rodney.
Jamaicans are familiar with the term grow what you eat what you grow. How about taking a few steps further? How about doing it organically? Start an organic farm in your backyard, an agricultural system that focuses on ecological balance, soil regeneration, and biodiversity. Here's an example, JIS's look inside the DIGI's organic farm.
Back in 2003, this land was supposed to become housing plots, cut up, sold, and built on. But one look at the hillside changed everything. She didn't see lots and buildings. She saw a farm waiting to happen.
Okay, so from 2003 to 2008, there was a lot of studying and trying things. And we started really developing the garden in 2008 when we got some help. I knew nothing about farming. I still know nothing about farming, but I produce food. And I produce food for us. That was my main goal, was to produce healthy, organic food for us and our friends. And whatever left over is, and the overflow can go to others.
So, how do you grow an organic farm space? It starts with the soil. Instead of using chemicals, Liz focuses on building it naturally. She makes compost, turning waste into rich fertilizer, and uses mulch, covering the ground with leaves and plant material to lock in moisture to keep the soil healthy. Rainwater harvesting is also used alongside drip irrigation. This is to ensure the farm operates efficiently and sustainably. And water conservation meant creative solutions for sanitation too. One standout feature of the farm is its composting toilet system, a dry, waterless toilet that turns human waste into compost through natural decomposition.
So you have two chambers, one inside and one outside. The one inside is where you have the seat, and there's an incline between both. So the waste drops on the incline and rolls outside into the outer cabin, the outer section. And that's where microorganisms are going to decompose the waste into a rich humus.
She also uses vermin composting.
So basically, the worms, and it's a special kind of worms that we call the California red regular worms.
And where do you get them?
With me. I raise them and I sell them.
Okay.
And or exchange them or whatever, trade them. And they use organic material, eat it. Once it goes through their system, it comes out as vermicompost. All these little black pebbles there. This is the vermicompost. Super rich.
There's also traditional composting at work.
Okay, so this is more the compost that we are used to see. So it's a soil that's very open, has a lot of structure, which means the microorganisms can easily go through it and make their little channels and let the water and the air go through the soil. That's very important.
And then there is the newer method like the Johnson-Sue system.
With this system here, you make some holes. While you build up your tower, we have some pipes there with holes in them, and we put them, five of them, they go all the way down, and we fill up around it. And if you look, you're gonna see once within 24 hours, we pull out those pipes, and you have the holes made. You see that?
Yeah.
So that's like chimneys. There's 5 chimneys here that let the air go through your system, so you never have to turn it.
Oh.
Time now for the business report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing you the developments shaping markets, capital access, and business decision-making across Jamaica and the region. Let's get into the stories that matter. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, reported that consumer prices declined by 0.3% in April of 2026. According to the latest Consumer Price Index report, the decline was mainly driven by lower electricity rates, which contributed to a 4.3% fall in the index for category housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels. Statin advised that the group, electricity, gas, and other fuels recorded a significant 12.5% decline during the month. However, the overall reduction in consumer prices was partially offset by higher food and transportation costs. The Food and Non-Alcoholic Beverages Division increased 0.6%, mainly due to higher prices for agricultural produce, including ripe banana, orange, and watermelon. Meanwhile, the transport division rose by 1.1% because of increased petrol prices. Statin says Jamaica's point-to-point inflation rate as of April 26 stood at 4.3%. For the quarter ending March 31, 2026, Barita posted operating revenue of $3.7 billion, a 72% jump over the same period last year. This was driven by a 154% increase in gains on investment activities and growth in net interest income. Barita's group chairman, Mark Myers, who is also the chairman of the KFC franchise in Jamaica, said, and I quote, "Barita delivered a materially stronger second quarter performance in financial year 2026 with clear improvement across the group's core earnings drivers. With increased platform scale, Barita is better positioned to pursue cross-selling opportunities and realize synergies across investment management, wealth management, and pension services." Myers added, and I quote, "We are strengthening profitability through business line optimization, revenue mix refinement, sharper asset management performance, and tighter cost discipline." Myers continued and stated that performance from our alternative investments portfolio continues to be anchored by the real estate platform, which we view as a long-term strategic growth pillar of the group. He notes that work continues at Barita's Harbor Street and Eden Gardens properties in Kingston. It recently appointed Bernard Stoker, CEO of its real estate portfolio. Barita also holds 100 acres in St. Anne, significant real estate assets in that parish, and plans to develop high-end residencies there. For the trading period of May 15, 2026, the most actively traded securities were Wigton Energy Limited with 5,040,706 units, representing 17.67% of market sales activities. Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with 4,481,115 units, representing 15.71% of market sales activities. Trans Jamaica Highway Limited with 2,070,739 units, representing 7.26% of market sales activities. Investor activity remained concentrated in solar energy, finance, and transportation plays, signaling continued interest in dividend-producing and strategic assets. Turning to the foreign exchange market based on Bank of Jamaica data for May 15, 2026. Forex traders recorded significant activity with strong demand across major currencies. For the US dollar, trading margins reflected steady liquidity, with the US selling at $157.30 and buying at $159.03. For the Canadian dollar, moderate gains supported by 34-cent transaction spreads. The Canadian dollar sold for $115.78 and was bought for $115.44. For the British pound, continued volatility offered short-term trading opportunities of $2.39 in profits for the bank. The British pound sold for $213.08 and was bought for $210.69. These movements underscore the importance of cash flow timing and currency awareness for businesses managing import costs, debt servicing, or overseas exposure. For our credit report tip of the day, consider credit as the engine of life design. And we're going to talk about how your credit profile shapes health, career, family, retirement, and lifestyle. Because most people think of credit as something you only deal with when buying a car or applying for a loan. In reality, your credit score and credit report function more like a personal life access system that quietly influences the quality, speed, and cost of nearly every major decision you make. From housing and healthcare options to business opportunities and retirement flexibility, credit is not just financial, it's structural. It affects how much freedom you actually have to design the life you want. So credit is not just borrowing, it's access. A credit report is essentially your financial track record. It tells lenders, institutions, and sometimes even employers how reliably you manage obligation. A credit score then compresses that history into one number, which is your credit score, that determines whether you're approved or declined, the interest rate you receive, the size of the opportunities made available to you, and the cost of accessing those opportunities. In simple terms, credit determines how expensive or accessible your next step in life will be. For our funded and focused feature, right now we live in a world where AI agents can now act like a lean operating team, drafting content, managing workflows, analyzing data, even supporting customer engagement. That shift has lowered the people barrier to starting and scaling a business. But there is a second barrier that hasn't changed as quickly. That's capital. For the solopreneur, the question is no longer, can I build this alone? AI says you can. The real question is, where do I get the fuel to turn this into an asset-building business? So let's break that down clearly. In the solopreneur reality, you're building two things at once. As a solopreneur, you're simultaneously building a business that generates income and then a system that converts income into assets. So AI agents help with the execution on the business side. But capital determines speed, scale, and staying power. Without funding, most solopreneurs stay stuck in a cycle of work, then earn, then reinvest, then repeat. But when you get funding, the cycle changes. You build leverage, then scale, then asset creation. So the real question becomes, what funding pathways exist for solo businesses today? Because ultimately the goal is not just to earn from your business, it's to turn your effort into something that compounds beyond your time. And that's today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing clarity to capital markets and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep building forward. See you soon.
In regional news, a major multi-million US dollar initiative aimed at strengthening disaster preparedness and upgrading the country's weather forecasting and early warning system is now underway in Antigua and Barbuda. The government, in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme, has launched the 5-year Early Warnings for All project, funded by the Green Climate Fund. Theresa Goodwin reports.
The initiative seeks to overhaul national disaster systems, upgrade meteorological infrastructure, and modernize legal and technical frameworks to ensure timely life-saving alerts reach all residents, including those in remote and vulnerable communities. Director of the Antigua and Barbuda Meteorological Services, Dale Destin, says the vulnerabilities faced by small island states like Antigua and Barbuda makes early warning systems not a luxury, but an essential pillar of national preparedness.
Importantly, early warning systems are not simply about weather forecasts. They're about people. They're about actionable information that allows governments, communities, businesses, emergency responders, farmers, mariners, pilots, fishers, and the ordinary citizens.
Destin says the system is coming at an opportune time as the technical demands on the meteorological services has become even more critical. He also adds that the economic value of investing in early warning systems is compelling.
The development economists estimate that effective meteorological and early warning services can help countries avoid losses equivalent to roughly 3 to 6% of GDP annually through improved preparedness, disaster risk reduction, operational efficiency, and informed decision-making.
Deputy Director of the National Office of Disaster Services, Craig Cole, says disaster management requires all hands on deck.
Over the next 5 years, we're going to be in a very tight relationship. We need to strengthen and encourage each other along the way. And when we find bumps, we get over them.
Delivering the keynote address, Minister of State in the Ministry of Social and Urban Transformation, the Honourable Kiz Johnson, notes the project is intended to reach even the most remote communities across the Tune Island nation.
For too long, the gap between a scientific forecast and a family in a remote village has been too wide. We are here to bridge that gap.
UNDP's Deputy Resident Representative for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Stephanie Zybel, says the project represents a significant shift in how international partners and local agencies deliver climate resilience.
We are ensuring that this $12 million investment from the Green Climate Fund addresses the entire early warning chain, from the scientific monitoring of hazards to the last mile of, as we've heard referenced, where communication saves lives in our most vulnerable communities.
Theresa Goodwin, ABS News.
In the Bahamas, preparations are now underway for the opening of a new parliamentary term following the general election. 41 newly elected members of parliament, along with 16 senators, are expected to be officially sworn into the upper and lower houses of parliament during what is expected to be a busy week for the country's legislature. Our news, Jerome Sawyer, brings us the details.
The opening of Parliament happens this Wednesday downtown in Parliament Square. There will also be the all-important speech from the throne, read by the Governor-General, Her Excellency Dame Cynthia Pratt, outlining the government's new legislative agenda. Ahead of that, the Prime Minister has already assembled his new cabinet of ministers and parliamentary secretaries. 15 took oaths of office on Saturday at Government House. 2 new constituencies will favour the government side, St. James and Bimini and the Barry Islands. The balance of power again with the PLP in a 33-8 majority. An historic 9 women were elected to the House this time as well. The swearing in of the senators and opposition members will begin tomorrow and Tuesday ahead of the opening of Parliament. The new cabinet, now in place, features many of the re-elected members with the same portfolios. One notable change is the Pinewood MP Miles Laroda, who now heads national security. He previously served as Minister for Social Services and championed the launch of the Protection Against Violence Commission under the landmark 2023 Act. As he goes into this new appointment as the Minister for National Security, Laroda shared how humbled and grateful he is for the people of Pinewood and in that community who re-elected him, while also recognizing the massive important ministry the Prime Minister has entrusted to him.
I let the professionals do their job and I bring a support behind them. Just like Minister Monroe, I believe in equipping the armed forces with tools and equipments for them to be effective in their job.
In sports, we look to football. Montego Bay United secured a narrow advantage over defending champions Cavalier in their Jamaica Premier League semi-final clash with a 1-0 victory in the first leg at the National Stadium on Sunday. The decisive moment came in stoppage time when Cavaliers' Adrian Reed scored an own goal, handing the Xavier Gilbert-coached Montego Bay United the win ahead of Wednesday's second leg. Gilbert says his team anticipated Cavaliers' transition style of play and was pleased with his players' overall performance. He notes that while his side could have been quicker in breaking down the opposition, they controlled possession, created chances, and limited Cavaliers' opportunities on the counter-attack. And that's it for the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.